Hi everyone, welcome back to Freezing Bun Friday. This office is particularly cold. I keep it cold because of all the product in it, and it is paying me back big time now. So, sorry about the scarf, but at least it's bright. I thought this week was going to be fairly quick, but there is going to be a rant, sorry. So, admin to start with. I recorded a podcast when I was in Ireland recently. That went live this week, and they also filmed it. It's on YouTube. It is the Girls with Goals podcast, which is her.ie. I will link that below so you can have a watch and a laugh. It's quite funny. And then I took a taxi ride with Trini. I will link to that below. Just talking about just random chat, I think. But in that taxi ride, she gave me a pre-sample exclusive look at her new BFF eye. If you know Trini's BFF, it's her bestseller, and she's made one for the eye area. And it's not available yet, it's next week, I think. Again, I'll make sure that's all below. But it's so good. Not an ad. This is what it looks like. So it's fairly solid, but very smooth. I've been using it out of the lid, as you'll see. A little goes a long way. It blends in beautifully. It is essentially a sort of serum stroke concealer stroke primer. If you know a BFF, it's a bit of everything in one, and this is the same thing but for the eye area. It's really good. So I will let you know when that's out, but I just wanted to let you know now, just crossing things off my list. I emailed Sunday Riley because a few of you in the UK were saying, when is the A+ retinol coming? It has passed its EU certification. It will be ready on the 8th of Feb. Which is this time next week. I'm sure it'll appear before then. Any retailer who gets it in tends to just put it straight out. They're not supposed to, but they do. Milk, launched in Cult Beauty. This is actually from my stash, and I left this lid off and it's dried out. That's my fault, because Ava took all of the new stuff I received. I will link below to my blog post about that. Really lovely products. I did a couple of my standout products, of which this was one. This is the lip and cheek, and I own Rally, Work, and another one I can't remember, but I do have 3 of the colours, and you can put them here, here, and on the lid. Lovely. Speaking of blusher, this was sent in by Laura Mercier. I'm just cleaning it because I just saw how dirty it was. This is then a few of their new blushers, and this colour, Sangria, is lush. Lush blush. I'll list this below too. But it's a really good pigment pickup, but not too heavy. It's not glittery, thank you God, or thank you Laura Mercier. That's all good. 2 more bits before we get into rant mode. Vanish Hourglass, the new foundation got sent in this week. I haven't played with it yet. However, kudos to only sending 3 shades. And what I love is that they send the shade they think you are, and then one paler and one darker. So this is perfect for me. This will be winter, this will be summer. I have had it on my face. I was wearing it for the Kate Somerville event with Space & K a couple of weeks ago. Ben from Hourglass happened to be in the store that day, and as I walked in I went, oh, fix this, as I always do. And he said, oh, I've got the new foundation on me. So he used it, it seemed lush. I haven't played with it properly. I will obviously report back, and I'm sure you'll end up seeing it in makeup videos and empties videos, because I do like a bit of Hourglass, as we know. That comes in 32 shades. Vegan, cruelty-free, marvellous. What does it say? Doesn't say. I think it's out now. Yeah, it doesn't say. Okay. I also had breakfast with lovely Jill and Shabir from Victoria Health this week. You will know them more if you watch Trini's bathroom videos with Shabir. He's a pharmacist. Victoria Health is a brilliant UK-based website that do literally anything you can think of that's health and wellness related, including beauty, supplements, brilliant supplement section. Jill was also incredibly close to Brandon from Deciem, and probably the closest in the industry to him. If not for a certain amount of time, closest to him in his life. When it went wrong with Brandon, both publicly and privately for all of us, which none of us have really talked about, I sort of threw my support behind Jill, because I knew how close they were, and it was obvious to all of us that Brandon was in trouble. Ree's already mentioned that she tried to reach out. I don't really need to go into it because I wasn't as close to him as those girls were, but Jill has written a wonderful tribute on the back of the Victoria Health newsletter to Brandon, which I will link to you below. I'm not going to read it out. It's her words, and I think you should read it in her tone. It's really moving, really sad. There you go. Sending lots of love to Jill. And to Brandon's loved ones, obviously, which, by the way, I did cover in the blog last week. I wasn't filming, so it wasn't on YouTube. Okay, moving from that to something very, very 2019 and so bloody annoying. You will not have escaped if you are a regular, well, actually a reader of the news in the UK, and if you are on Instagram and you follow other bloggers and or influencers. The CMA, the Competition and Markets Authority, and the ASA released new guidelines last week, 23rd of Jan, so exactly a week ago. To say that the shit hit the fan would be mild. Before I start, if you're not interested in any of this, sign off now and I'll see you next week. But if you are someone who engages with blogs and you have always wondered about the ads and the declarations and the disclosures, and you might find it interesting because I don't think it's going to be helpful. Not me talking about it, the actual guidelines. So we all get this massive, if you've got any kind of representation, and I've made notes. It's an 18-page, slightly longer because some of them double-page document about who are you, what are the rules, what counts as an ad, affiliate marketing, advertorial, what counts as payment for an ad, what counts as control for an ad, what if there's payment but no control, stay with me, imagine. How do I make clear that ads are ads? What are the CMA's requirements? What else do I need to remember? How do I label it? What happens when someone complains? There are three bodies. Herein lies the issue. I have always raged against the word influencer because it's not something that we coined, and I don't count myself as an influencer. I am on influencer lists. I know I have influence. I see myself as an industry expert, trained facialist who is providing a service. And yes, I take payment sometimes to talk about specific products, but in essence, my job as I see it is to talk to you about skincare. And I love it. Nothing there is going to change. The problem comes when people who are, say, on reality TV shows and minor celebs and naughty major celebs do something like, I'm just going to use this because it's random, Chili's water bottle, and they're like, loving my Chili's water bottle, and nothing's declared. And you think, that's random, why are they just putting a picture up of them drinking water? And it's obvious it's an ad. And so that's been going on for years. Big celebs not disclosing. Pain in the arse. The Kardashians did it for a long time. Now they disclose. Massive bloggers like Blonde Salad, Kiara, she discloses everything. I love her. She just writes advertising across the screen. But there's a minority that don't disclose. There's a minority that are embarrassed that they make money on this platform or Instagram or a blog or whatever. And therein have caused this problem. So we now have the ASA, the CMA and CAP. Looks like this. I'm going to link this to you below. It's a long document. It's a download. The Advertising Standards Authority, the Competition and Markets Authority, and the Committee of Advertising Practice. Now, I think I could rightly say that although they're very good independent bodies on their own, they couldn't organise a piss up in a brewery. I say that with love. Please don't sue me. What are the rules? This should just be called No One Really Knows. Let's move on. What counts as an ad? Advertorial. Now, here is where there's no alignment. The CMA says, and these are the ones who can throw you in jail. They're following the CAP code, which is, if you work with a brand to create some content that you'll be posting on your own channels, it will qualify as an ad if the brand paid you in some way, I'm coming back to that, or had some form of editorial control over the content, including final approval. So for me, that would be a dedicated video where I would film it, show it to the brand. 99 times out of 100, they say, brilliant, thank you, done. I think I did a video once for a brand where I'd said the word acne, and their legal team were worried because they had an American audience and you can't say acne, it's a medical term, and I had to change it to blemish. That's the extent of it. The paid part is where it gets really interesting. Paid you in some way can be freebies, doesn't have to be money. So bear that in mind. If you think this is confusing, try being on this side of the camera. It's not an either or. This is all in print. It's not an either or. There has to be both payment and control. So if Chili's sent me this as a freebie, that's one thing. If they sent me as a freebie and said, please post this on the 1st of February and talk about it in your Bun Friday video, which they didn't, then that would clearly be an ad. What they're now saying is the fact that they sent it to me at all also constitutes an ad. Now, I can understand that more if it's a Chanel handbag, a Dior watch, a press trip to the Maldives, something like that. Where it's a lipstick and a pot of cream, you may disagree with me, and I'm open to friendly responses. Don't come at me, please, not this week. So now they're saying press samples, which are what they are. They're not freebies, they're press samples. Press samples are payment. Now, doing that full circle, it means that literally every single bit of content that someone like me, who predominantly talks about skincare, produces, and I always multi-brand it, will have to be called an ad, because if I talk about 5 things, I might have paid for 2 of them, I might have paid for 4 of them, I might have paid for none of them. But now, technically, that will always be an ad. Here's where the problem lies. Now, I know some of you who are of that way of thinking will be saying, well, good, because you've got it for free. I'm trying to be empathetic. Listen, please. Here's the problem. It then becomes so much easier for people who don't want to disclaim to hide it as it was just sent to me. It's not an ad. Do you see what I mean? So if they did send it to me as, we want you to talk about this on the 1st of Feb, and here's 100 grand, obviously I'm playing airball figures here, people. And at the same time, Trini gave me her press sample with a product that is not out yet, and I call it an ad. You don't know. You just think, oh, she's been sent these in, so she has to call it an ad. I can hide that I've actually been paid to talk about this. Again, I haven't. I do like them, but I've never bought one. Okay. Now here's where it becomes a big problem and where it crosses boundaries all over the show. The CMA and the ASA don't really align. The CMA can arrest you, take legal action. The ASA can't. They will issue you with a warning and they will publicly shame you. Very nice. Payment is defined as goods and or freebies and or samples, which brings me to journalists and magazines and food critics and theatre critics and anything like that. By that very line of that is payment in kind, and here's where I'm coming from. All of this info came last week. Beginning of this week, I'm sent this from an extremely big brand, which I'm not going to show you the name. I did call the brand, which is 8 points on how this brand would like its influencers to relay its product. Now that in itself is control. I don't think they get that what they've actually done has almost said everything we send you now has to be called an ad, because they're telling you how you should talk about them. The fact that it says brand X shall monitor compliance by its influencers with these guidelines and shall reserve the right to review its relationship with any influencer who is found to not be complying. That all sounds and looks good on paper, but when you dive down deep into it, it is literally trying to hand over control of everything that someone like I do, old school beauty bloggers like Jane Cunningham, British beauty blogger, people who have done it for a living for a long time as bloggers. This isn't sour grapes. We're all for transparency. This is going to make it easier for ads to be hidden. If you have any sort of commercial relationship with a brand, such as being paid to be an ambassador, or you're given products, gifts, services, trips, hotels, etc. for free, this will all qualify as payment. And herein I'm going to leave you with this conundrum. I'm going on a press trip next week. It is a press trip. I'm being paid to go because tied in with the press trip, they're paying me for my time because it's for a big launch later in the year, and I'm going to blog about the product later in the year. So they're paying me for my time now, and part of that is a blog post towards the end of the year. I'm going on that trip with a journalist. The journalist does not have to comply with this because they're a journalist and I'm a blogger. Maybe you think that's fair. I think it's utter bollocks. It's not the journalist's fault. It's the fault of these people. Where does that leave beauty directors who are literally given the directive from their publishing houses to get a bigger profile on Instagram and to drive traffic to the magazine? They're now micro-influencers in their own right. But when it comes to this, and we've been speaking to them this week, they're like, oh, no, I'm a journalist. It doesn't count. So the people who've always disclosed, those of us who've always said this is an ad, I'm working with this brand, we will now have to call the majority of what we do an ad because other people don't abide by the rules. So if I say ad, but it's not really, I just have to say it is, you'll know I'm being sarcastic because actually it means I was sent a press sample, I received a pen and something. If I am being paid to put something in front of you, I know that you trust me anyway, but I will always say why it has to be of value to you. It has to give knowledge in some way, and that's not going to change for me. How things are labelled might change, I'm not changing, but this is pointless. Sorry, it just doesn't make any sense at all. Have a wonderful weekend. I will, while I'm declaring everything an ad on Instagram because it was probably sent in as a press sample. Bye everyone.